Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So this video today is going to be about tinnitus. Before I get into the details, I just wanted to mention that I am doing one-on-one coaching. So I have a free 15-minute consultation, 30-minute call, 60-minute call, and I do offer them at lower rates than other places you might find online. I will put the link to my online booking calendar in the description of this video. I also will put the link to my website. If you're interested in learning more about my story, you can read about it there, and you can also book sessions through there. And then if you have just a single question to ask me, I will leave my email address down below. I just ask that you limit it to one question. I had for a while said that I didn't want to answer any questions, but if you have something quick to ask me, I usually will have the time to answer it. But if you send me a long email, I won't be able to answer all of the questions. I just don't have time with the number of messages I get. So I just ask that you then book a free consultation to answer more than one question. So onto the video about tinnitus. So tinnitus is a very, very, very common symptom. I would say, I don't know, I don't like giving percentages because I'm just kind of doing this off the top of my head as far as trying to calculate it. But over half of the people for sure that I talk to, I would say, have tinnitus. And I don't think it necessarily matters which type of drug you took. I think they all can cause tinnitus. For me personally, I took SSRIs for 7 years and came off them in only 4 weeks without knowing any better, and I had no tinnitus. And I remember reading on the forums how common tinnitus was and how distressing it is for some people. And I'm like, tinnitus? I'm like, I don't have any tinnitus, not in my very acute SSRI withdrawal. I had the brain zaps, but I didn't have any tinnitus. And I'm like, what are people talking about? I had maybe minor ear ringing here and there, when you get sick or whatever and your ears ring. So I knew what that sounded like, very brief periods of time, but I did not experience that. So even after 7 years of SSRI use, I didn't have tinnitus, but then I take benzos for 3 months. Plus I took other psychiatric drugs short-term within those 3 months. I took 8 different drugs in total. Then the tinnitus started. I actually remember tinnitus starting on Prozac. I took 2 milligrams of Prozac for, I think it was 4 days. And I remember calling the psychiatrist and saying, my ears are ringing. And, right away, she said something like, when I mentioned that and my other symptoms I was getting from Prozac, oh, well, that's not typically what people experience on Prozac. And I'm like, well, I don't care what people typically experience. This is what I'm experiencing. And then once I came off benzos, the tinnitus got a lot worse. And so it was just interesting to me that long-term SSRI use and a quick cessation of the drug did not cause tinnitus, but 3 months of benzos and like a week of Prozac did. It's just crazy to me. And a lot of the information you'll find online will say, oh, tinnitus is caused by the damage to the fine hairs that line your ear canal or nerve or whatever it is. I don't know. But I mean, that's far from what we experience. If you dig deeper, it talks about brain changes that can cause tinnitus. And obviously that's the case for people in drug withdrawal or who have adverse reactions to these. I don't even like saying the word medication. To me, they're drugs. And this can be really distressing for people. There's a few things that I've noticed. So like I said, it can be caused by any of these drugs or the withdrawal of these drugs. It does seem to be that benzos cause it maybe more so than others, but that might just be something that I'm pulling out of the air. But to me, it just seems like benzos cause it maybe a little bit more frequently. And that was what caused it for me. It started with Prozac, but got a lot worse and continued from benzos. And I've noticed some things that make it worse. I've noticed just a few different things that I want to mention in this video. So benzos and these psychiatric drugs, when you come off them, especially if you taper off them too quickly, they make you more hyper aware of everything. So this looks different for different people. Some people are really hyper aware of different sensations in the body. Like it could be internal vibrations. It could be even just like you're more aware of, it's not that you're more aware of lights and sounds. You are, but it's also intensified. Like you are perceiving that in a stronger way. I mean, I wore sunglasses indoors for like the first 2 years, and I had noise canceling headphones that you'll see me wearing in some of these videos. I bought that because of my sound sensitivity, because I can just push the button and it really does drown a lot of the outside noise off. So you become hyper aware. So for me, I became hyper aware of what I was thinking. I was having all these intrusive thoughts. I'm like, why am I thinking about this? Well, I was just living inside my head for so long. I mean, I've talked about my mental symptoms in several different videos. They were the most intense thing for me. And I think ear ringing goes along with that hyper awareness. You're just aware. I mean, obviously it's a real thing that you're perceiving, but you can become so hyper focused on it. And that's like that hijacked brain. Your brain becomes so hijacked when you come off these drugs. You can become hyper aware of almost anything. And there are places online that talk about, I've read about it being a GABA deficient thing. So that to me, the first thing I think about is benzos when I hear that. Like it's an excited a hyperexcited brain state that causes the ear ringing. It's like a GABA issue. It's structural or chemical changes in the brain, different ways that neurons are communicating or firing. I've read all different kinds of things, but definitely in our case, it's a brain change thing. It has nothing to do with the ears, in my opinion. So it's like this hyper awareness, and it can become really distressing for people. You're in a quiet room, or you're trying to sleep, or you're whatever, and you're just aware of your ears ringing, like this sound that shouldn't be in your ears. And I've noticed that, okay, so this is compiled from, people that I talk to, my own experience, and things that I've read over the almost 6 years since, I first went into my first withdrawal. And stress is a big one. So I don't know what, obviously, like we get into a stress state. I mean, that's like an understatement when we go off these drugs. And so we're already in a fight or flight kind of stuck state. And so that's already a stress, obviously. And then if you are going through the windows and waves pattern, then any stressful event will typically bring the tinnitus back if you've had a break from it, or it'll make it stronger. So there's definitely something to do with the stress response is involved with tinnitus for sure. Fatigue can be another thing. So if you aren't getting enough rest, again, that could have to do with, the brain just being more turned on because you aren't getting that rest, paired with the fight or flight that you're now stuck in from going off these drugs. So that seems to make it worse, exacerbate it, make it stronger, make it come back if you've had a break from it. So stress, fatigue. I've noticed that screen time too. Like when I had been on, when I was suffering at my worst, there were times when if I'd spend more time than usual on my phone, on the computer, I didn't notice it as much with the TV. So I'm assuming it has something to do with the EMF, like the electromagnetic field or whatever radiates from these phones, computers, Wi-Fi. I do notice that I have noticed that there is some type of connection there with tinnitus. So again, makes it stronger, makes it come back if you've been in a window. I don't know if there's, I wouldn't say that just any type of exposure to the phone or computer will bring it back. But if you're spending any length of time in front of those screens, it can exacerbate the tinnitus. And I've seen a wide range of the distress factor with tinnitus. Some people will say, I could live with tinnitus forever if my other symptoms would go away, anhedonia or akathisia or looping mental thoughts or, the SI, whatever people perceive as their most distressing symptom. Some people will say, well, the tinnitus is so mild that I could live with my ears ringing for the rest of my life and it wouldn't bother me if everything else would go away. And then there's other people where tinnitus is their most distressing symptom. So I've seen that too, where it's like, I feel okay, but my ear ringing is driving me crazy. It's my worst symptom. Or, I've seen people take it very far where it's like, I literally cannot live with tinnitus. So it's interesting that that part of it, because there's the people who have akathisia all across the board will say it's the worst symptom I've ever experienced, or at least top 3, whereas tinnitus is all over the place. Like I said, there's people who just see it as a mild nuisance, and there's other people where it's very distressing. So, but again, it's this hyper aware thing. It's, it's so hard for me to enjoy ABC thing because I'm so aware of my ears ringing. It's that awareness, whether you have the looping thoughts, the SI, whatever your body or your brain has decided to become fixated on, that is the most distressing symptom for most people. So Let me know your thoughts on that. Do you experience tinnitus? When did it start for you? Did it start with, going on the drug? Did it start with an updose? Did it start with changing drugs, tapering, coming off cold turkeying, like whatever your experience is? I'm curious to know. Did you notice if you were someone who, was polypharmacied or polydrugged, did you notice it, more with some symptoms or one symptom? Sorry, did you notice it with one class of drug over another? I'm just curious again. I'm trying to see, is it more common with benzos like I think it is, or is it kind of even across the board? And, is it one of your most distressing symptoms, or is it your most distressing symptom? Sorry if I kind of didn't make much sense there for a second. I had a notification pop up that distracted me on my phone. So yeah, let me know in the comments what your experience with tinnitus is. I do think it's one of the most common symptoms because of the brain changes that these drugs make, and because tinnitus seems to be directly related to brain changes. So yeah, give me your feedback, and I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.